My life, when it is written, will read better than it lived. Henry Fitzemperus, first Plantagenet, a king at 21, the ablest soldier of an able time. He led men well. He cared for justice when he could and ruled for 30 years a state as great as Charlemagne's. He married out of love a woman out of legend. Not in Alexandria or Rome or Camelot has there been such a queen. She bore him many children, but no sons. King Henry had no sons. He had 3 whiskered things, but he disowned them. You're not mine! We're not connected! I deny you! None of you will get my kingdom! I leave you nothing, and I wish you plague! May all your children breed and die! My boys are gone. I lost my boys.
The pod bay doors are open. Thank you very much for joining us once again. I'm your host, Doug Heller, film critic and film historian for TalkMovieToMe.com. Here, as always, ready to plot and scheme. My co-host, critic for ArmchairCinema.com, ArmchairOscars.com, and OverThinkingOscars.wordpress.com, as well as a plethora of YouTube review channels from movie history, Oscar history, to snack food. Jerry Dean Roberts, what do you got for me today, Jerry?
I haven't kept the great bitch in the keep for 10 years out of passionate attachment.
That's right, we're talking about the ultimate Christmas movie.
The Lion in Winter. And let me tell you something. If you think that you are having problems, if you think that you are having anxiety over getting with your family this Christmas, watch this movie.
Yeah. This is all about King Henry
your
II.
piddling problems are nothing compared with what goes on in this movie.
No. The movie is Peter O'Toole reprising his role as King Henry II from Becket, which was from 1964, that was at the beginning of King Henry II's reign. This
is at the end.
4 years later is at the end of King Henry II's reign and life, and this is such a unique kind of position to be in, because you don't usually get an actor who gets to play the same part in 2 different movies so drastically far apart.
2 different movies.
Connected.
This is only a spiritual sequel. It's kind of a spiritual sequel. But I want to address this.
Yeah.
I want to address this. The story essentially is that Henry II is nearing the end of his reign. The title refers to the end of a king's reign when he is old enough that he is starting to think about succession. Mm-hmm. The Lion in Winter. And you have to consider also, in this movie, Henry II is 50.
Yeah.
Now, also consider, this is 1183.
In 1183, that was like 140.
Yeah, that was like those news reports you hear of, oh, so-and-so in what country just turned 110. It's one of those stories. Because the average age was about 35, if you were a man. If you were a woman, childbirth is like a roll of the dice. I was shocked that she had 8 children.
Yeah, childbirth today is still a big roll of the dice.
But not as much as it was then, because,
you
could just bleed to death.
Mortality rates, mothers that die during childbirth in the United States is something like, 20%. And
but then it was probably about 60.
if you're black or a person of color, it's like 60 to 70%.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's bad.
It's
bad.
bad
Still, but it was worse then because they didn't have soap.
Well, and also, if you've seen Holy Grail, and you've seen the
Yeah,
Ishia witch scene, you know what science was then.
yeah, yeah, and that was set in 932.
Yeah. So this is
Yeah,
the idea that he's turning 50 and he's considering, the succession. I'm 53,
yeah,
and I still think of myself as a teenager. It's amazing. The story here goes around to the fact that Henry is trying to decide which of his sons to leave his kingdom to. It's very much it's interesting that we're following The Godfather Part 2 on this, because that was another story about a father trying to figure out the succession of his sons and finding that none of them are really suited for it. And the
Right.
one who ended up being suited for it, there wasn't anything at the end of his life that was left. There was no family left to it. But you look at the sons in this, he has 3 sons, and they're all completely different.
Now,
One is weak, the other's kind of stiff and official, and the third one is in the closet.
Now-
The middle child's in the closet.
yeah. Now, I do have a personal connection to this, I believe. Now, it should be noted that in this, the Richard, who is played by Anthony Hopkins, is indeed Richard the Lionhearted from Robin Hood.
Right.
Therefore, James, the youngest,
I thought Johnny was the
Is-
youngest.
or John, the John that usurps the throne while Richard is in doing the Crusades, that's little John. That's John, the
Okay.
weak brother. That man, usurper King John, is a distant ancestor of mine.
Oh, I didn't know that.
My mother traced our genealogy on my maternal grandmother's side, and she tracked us all the way back to my great grandfather was from Wales. They immigrated when he was 3. They were descended from King John from a relationship with a Welsh prostitute. So technically, I am of royal lineage. Now, the only way I would get to sit on the throne of England is if England went up in a nuclear holocaust. But
Yeah.
I am technically royal. I am technically part of this little family squabble here. So that's an interesting thing that kind of makes this a little personal for me, that Henry II might have actually been. And actually, every president that's ever been elected, except one, and it's not Barack Obama, was related to Henry II in some way.
Yeah. Because I figured, now this is the 3rd time I'd seen this. The first time was just because I was interested in it. Second time, I was actually thinking about doing this for Christmas, and then something else came up. And then I watched it the 3rd time. And every time I watch it, I always think, this is a good argument for democracy.
Yeah, it is.
Because you can see the kind of bullshit that that the Peter O'Toole character puts in place here is exactly what led to the democracy going on in America.
Democratization.
Because the idea of this man who has unlimited power to be able to do whatever the hell he wants with whomever the hell he wants in any way, shape, or form does not
Except get a divorce.
except get a divorce. The only the only entity that he has to answer to is God and the
Yeah.
church. And that's the whole basis of the movie. Also, I think we're kind of related to this was A Man for All Seasons, which was
Yeah.
about Henry VIII trying to get a divorce, and all of this stonewalling that's going on because it's easy to pick a successor. It's easy to do this, but there are personal stakes, and
Yeah, you want a successor that's going to respect your legacy
going to do what you
and
want.
hopefully carry it on. Yeah,
Yep,
carry it on and not completely undo and dishonor what you've done.
right. But
Would,
he's also got a dick, and so in so doing, he wants someone younger, and therefore has kept his wife Eleanor Aquitaine in prison for 10 years.
yeah. Trots her out for holidays.
He lets her out. He springs her for the holiday, and as soon as the holiday's over, back to your cell, Your Highness.
Yep.
Perhaps you'd like to be back in your
And then
cell,
she
Your
comes out
Highness.
for Easter. She comes out for Easter.
Yeah, yeah, at least.
She actually doesn't seem to be all that bothered by the arrangement because she weirdly they hate to love each other and they love to hate each other.
It is such a love-hate. She is so bold to tell him, "You're a son of a bitch and I hate you." But yet she gets tears in her eyes when she says, "What do you want?" And he says, "I want a new wife." And
Yeah.
it's such a back and forth.
They both say these things that hurt each other so hard, and 5 minutes later they're laughing and smiling and holding each other like they are the greatest couple that has ever been recorded in human history.
But you know what? Underneath all of this, they both realize their station in life, that they both have all of this grand power, and that they both hate each other, but they also realize their time is short,
Mhm.
and I think they both regret what they've done with it.
Yeah.
The middle-aged syndrome of what have I, my youth is gone. She's looking in that mirror and it's like, I used to have so much, it's all gone.
Yeah.
What do I have to show
I,
for it?
I wish to note that this movie is particularly unique in its casting. Ordinarily, going back from the beginning of movies, even through today, 9 chances out of 10, the woman is in her mid to late 20s or early 30s, and the man is about 62.
Right.
Ava Marie Saint and Cary Grant in North by Northwest.
Right.
This, Katharine Hepburn is significantly older than Peter O'Toole.
Right.
in this. By like what, 30 years?
Something like that, yeah.
Like she's actually too old to be playing the character.
Yeah.
Technically, because the character would have been dead by the time she got to Katharine Hepburn's age.
Especially after having 8 children.
8 children in, 11 whatever.
Well, his station in life, his whole thing was of course, these guys were born to be, these guys they're born into it. And
they were born royalty, and they know it.
they know it, and they know the power they have, and they see people as chess pieces. They're moving things around so that they can get their way and get what they want, which is why she spends 10 years in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And you look down, he's frustrated because the personalities are all getting in the way. And
Right.
it's just not going the way he wants it to. And it's...
And you know what? Honestly, I'm surprised that he thought that it would.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, you're watching it and you're like, did you really expect this to go a different way? Because I don't know how it could have.
Did you think the personalities weren't gonna get in the way? Because
I mean, because all of them have very strong personalities.
right,
Even John, who is usually hiding behind a curtain, has a distinct personality even.
he wants to have a union with France, so he brings in Philip and
Timothy Dalton.
21-year-old Timothy Dalton with a face that looks like it's been kissed by the angels. I mean,
Seriously, he looks so different with that beard.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
took me until he was gone from the movie to realize that was Timothy Dalton.
21 years old. It's just his first movie role. And again, he's so pretty. I mean,
He is.
and he comes in and you're looking at him and he's with Anthony Hopkins and you're going, yeah, they got together.
They had to.
Yeah, and then you find out, yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I
The
want to
actors
mention
or the
characters.
prince and the character. Because you never know, the actors could have too.
You never know. It's show business. But
Hey,
I want to tell you, though, one of the things that stands out about this movie is this is 1183. Okay, this is not Camelot. They're stepping out into the courtyard with fanfare, and they have to cross a line of chickens to get out there. And
Yeah.
it's amazing because everywhere they go, when they're not in their bedrooms, there's just hay and dirt on the floor.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, this is not the glorified King Arthur, the image of King Arthur that we have. Everything is
No.
shimmering and it's all beautiful and
No.
everything's no,
It's not even the image of Henry VIII that we usually get.
no,
you
it is
know.
not.
This
And
is-
you're looking.
This is workaday Johnny, basically.
Well, he's looking around. Honestly, the set design in this is more Holy Grail than it is Camelot. Because there's hay and shit laying around, and it's just.
It's realistic.
And he keeps talking about his kingdom and what he wants to leave behind, and all the power that he has. And you're looking around at the set in this movie, and you're going, for what? As you're looking around, you're going, this is a
Yeah.
pile of shit.
Exactly what do you have, sir?
Yeah, what do you want to preserve?
It's that whole thing is you know, sure, you could be king, but if it's just a dirt heap, who cares?
Is it good to be the king?
Not for him.
Not for him. Not in 1183.
No. Maybe by the time Mel Brooks got to be king, but not.
Maybe. Well, that was France. That was France.
Yeah.
That was the Tuileries.
Revolutionary France. Yeah. That was,
Well, and
that was a
also,
good 600 years later.
and also, it is amazing that they thought of that the production designer was like, you know what? I don't think it should be shimmering and beautiful. It should be dusty, and all the clothes look uncomfortable. Let me tell you something. You watch this in
Yeah.
HD. Don't watch this in HD because you can see Anthony Hopkins' beard tacked on.
Yeah, it's
It looks like a
yeah,
shrub.
I watched this on a 4K TV. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Watching old movies in 4K is dicey. It could go really well or go really poorly.
And I have to tell you, though, if you want a movie that is action-packed, fencing,
Well,
fighting, true love, don't look for this movie.
Don't come here. No.
This is
Don't
wall-to-wall
come here.
dialogue.
Yeah, this is based on a play.
Yeah.
Um,
You would think
And
it'd be
it's not-
Shakespeare. If you didn't know it, you'd think it'd be Shakespeare.
the hilarious thing is he actually references Shakespeare.
Yeah.
He says there's another king called Lear that I have a lot in common with. It's like, oh, so we're positing that Lear was a real person
Because this is
because
before
Shakespeare
was
wasn't
born.
alive for another 300 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And they
So-
make mention, and this is very unusual, they make mention of Jesus.
Yes.
Because she says, in a world where a carpenter can be resurrected, anything's possible.
Well, remember, I mean, 1183. They were the Roman Catholic Church had been going strong for about 800 years.
It lasted longer than Rome. Lasted longer than the Roman
Yeah.
Empire.
Well, technically it didn't, because technically the Roman Empire just reorganized into the Holy Roman Empire.
Under Constantine.
So realistically, it kind of was the Roman Empire from when it started all the way up to basically when the Enlightenment happened. So
Yeah.
we're talking like 1400s, 13, Da Vinci kind of broke the Roman Empire.
But you also look at England's stronghold on the world, because they ruled the world for 500 years. And you're thinking about Henry keeps talking about succession and what I want to leave and what I want for the future of England and all of this, and you're thinking it's not going to last long.
No.
Because how much longer did it last? All of these powers, the Roman Empire, the British Empire, they didn't last long.
Empires always fall.
Yeah,
As we in America are finding out hard.
exactly.
It's always just a matter of time, because empires are built on subjugation and people don't want to be subjugated for every now and again people will spark up and go, hey, I want to think for myself for a little bit.
And I don't want to be subjugated under the whims of one person. A person who
Right.
gets up in the middle of the night and starts waking everybody up, screaming, if I can't sleep, nobody will.
If the king is off his ass, then nobody sleeps.
It's like, what is he really controlling anymore? He's not controlling it because he has no control over his own house.
Or
You know.
his own life. He's just a fireball rolling through life, burning everything that he comes in contact with.
But he keeps getting stopped by all these personal things, and it's like, for example, he gets frustrated, and then he goes and tries to. He gets frustrated, and he goes and tries to do something that shows the power that he has. Like, he wants Richard to marry, what's her name, his girlfriend, and he Alice.
Alice, but not, well, it's Alice, but Alais.
He drags this woman before the priest to marry Richard, and she doesn't want to marry him. She's been his girlfriend. She's been his girlfriend for so many years,
For a while.
a long time, and he's just making her marry. And it's just sick. What's so bad is there's a temptation at the end to get rid of the sons that he has, and with Alice have more sons so that he can. It's like he's gonna start over, and it's like, okay,
Basically, yeah.
it's sick. That's what I was thinking
It
through.
is.
That's the
It
word
is.
that I had, and that's the sentence I had through this whole movie. As I was thinking, this is sick.
Yeah, he goes along. He's like, okay, I'm gonna tell the Pope that my marriage with Eleanor was never consummated, and therefore it should be annulled. And all of these kids that are supposedly mine and heirs aren't actually my children. She had them with somebody else impregnated her.
Right.
It's like, I want somebody that'll give me sons. She's like, you have sons. You have sons out the wazoo. Just most of them are bastards.
None of them are fit to be king.
Whores. Yeah. Most of them were made products of lying with prostitutes. So she gave him 3 boys, at least, that lived anyway.
Johnny, Jeffrey, and Richard.
Yeah.
Why is he so stubborn about Johnny becoming king? Johnny is this... He's basically Fredo. He's this little weakling. He's this little pouty child. It's like, why is he so insistent on him becoming king?
Because I don't think I think he's thinking from a position of maybe he'll just pass the crown and he'll live out his life without being king instead of dying, and he wants somebody he can control.
Somebody he can manipulate.
Right. Other than that, I really don't know, because John's not strong enough to hold everything together.
Not strong enough to hold himself together.
Right, and keep Henry's legacy. I mean,
there is literally a moment in this when he gets frustrated. He crosses his arms and pooches his bottom lip out. And you're like, this is what you want to be king?
Yeah.
And Richard is too passionate. Richard is just, he's too disagreeable. He's not going to do what you want.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he doesn't want Richard.
Right.
Jeffrey... I sense that Jeffrey could be too much of a yes man.
Jeffrey's aloof and doesn't really seem to care.
Yeah. Jeffrey's actually the least interesting of the 3 brothers, but...
Yeah, he's also got the least screen time.
Right.
Because he's the least interesting of them.
He has no real personality.
No. When Henry is about to kill John... Mm-hmm. The face that he makes is like a cross between Alexander Delarge from Clockwork Orange.
He's got a knife to his throat.
But the way that his face is, the way that he contorts, he kind of looks like Dim from The Clockwork Orange, where he's got like this Malcolm McDowell almost exaggerated look on his face. He actually looked like Malcolm McDowell trying to hold back throwing up during the Ludovico treatments. Like the same face. I just couldn't get the association out of my head. I was like, oh my God, he's Malcolm McDowelling.
But you come down to the idea that, and most people go through this, when it comes to Christmas time or Thanksgiving, a lot of people, and I've experienced this, are inundated with contact with relatives that you avoid the rest of the year.
Yeah.
It happens with weddings and funerals as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be around these people for whatever reason. And you're there, you're smiling, how you doing? I'm going to get some potatoes.
Yeah.
And that's part of the stress of the holidays. None of these people want to be around each other.
No, not a one. Excepting perhaps Alice and Henry, nobody else wants to be with each other.
Yeah, pretty much. And you're sitting there and you're like, this is kind of any family.
It's kind of the way that you feel in this is like you are the guest, and the family doesn't care that there's a guest.
Right.
and it's just going to go off.
And we're going to
regardless.
we're going to hash out every problem, every issue, every disagreement that we've had, and somebody's going to drink too much, and
Everything is going to be uncomfortable, and there is guaranteed to be more talk about sex between people that you don't want to imagine than you could possibly consider.
and that's what this movie is.
Yeah,
Is
pretty
it?
much.
I got the feeling. I don't know if you got this too, but I kept imagining an alternate universe in which Eleanor and Henry and their 11 children we're not king and we're not queen, we're not royalties at all, and we're just farmers. And I'm thinking, money and power are the biggest problem here. If they were
Yeah.
just a family, I think it would have been fine. But all of this fighting for power and passion, and how could you do this to me? And how could you do this to them? And how could you do this to... It's all based on their station.
Mhm.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And if they had just been simple, if they had just pared it down to their personalities and tried to work together. That sounds very simplistic and very childish, I know, but I can imagine another universe where it would have, they would have been fine.
Yeah. I mean, they would have had problems.
Yeah, every
But,
family
I
has
mean,
problems.
it would probably end up being the opposite, is that the lack of money would therefore then be their problem.
Right, right. How are we going to
You
get
know?
money?
Yeah. And you waste money on this, you waste money on that, and yada, 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 yada.
I make it and you spend it.
Right, yeah. So this is just kind of those problems just writ large. On like their decisions as a farming family affects themselves.
Right. I don't
Their
know if that sounded
decisions
confusing.
as a royal family
Yeah.
affects an entire empire. This is it's the Skywalkers fucking up the galaxy.
Right.
It's the same. it's daddy issues destroying the democracy. Basically, is just like what.
And
But,
you come into this, and again, the father can do whatever he wants. The king can do pretty much anything he wants, unless he gets the church involved. And you come back around to a democratic system that we have, that's a small d, a democratic system that we have, and all through our history, you've had men who have been in the seat of power, in the highest office in the land, and have still tried to pull it back into absolute power. You know, I'm going to step over the law, and I'm going to do what I want, because I'm the President of the United States, and the President of the United States can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, which actually not true.
Which is not
Well,
true at all.
Now it kind of is, but with the whole Supreme Court immunity, official action nonsense.
Yeah.
What defines an official action?
Yeah.
Apparently, interfering with an election is an official action. I don't know. Anyway,
And then we want strict interpretation.
yeah, this is just it's a captivating film. It's the performances are magnetic. This was Katharine Hepburn's third Oscar.
Which is unusual because it's the only tie in that category. Because
Yes, ever.
she tied with Barbra Streisand for her film debut.
Barbra Streisand.
Her film debut
For Funny Girl.
for Funny Girl, which
Yes,
we
Funny
need
Girl.
to talk about. Oh my God.
I don't think I've ever actually seen it.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. She is absolutely magnetic in that film. But the weird thing is, if you ever sit down, go to YouTube and watch The Acceptance, because Katharine Hepburn won 4 Oscars in her career for Morning Glory, for this, for Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and for On Golden Pond. She never showed up for any of it. And what's unusual is when she wins the Oscar for this, the producer of this film comes and picks it up, and it's this old stiff guy coming up and saying, I'm accepting this for Catherine, immediately followed by Hello Gorgeous, Barbra Streisand coming up to the podium. It's the most awkward Oscar acceptance you've ever seen. It's.
I bet it would be more awkward if Hepburn was there and got to give a speech too.
But I mean, if you have the podium occupied by both Katharine Hepburn and Barbra Streisand, that would be better. But the way it goes off is just awkward. This guy in a tuxedo comes up and accepts her Oscar and is immediately followed by Barbra Streisand, who is the most bubbly, wonderful personality. Mm-hmm. She was 26 years old. It's just really, really awkward. But yeah, she's won more Best Actress Oscars than anybody else. Even Meryl Streep only has 2.
She's won more acting Oscars. Right. Period.
Right.
The only people that have, or lead actress, specifically, lead acting role, Daniel Day-Lewis and Frances McDormand both have 3 lead acting Oscars. They are second. If either one of them would ever win a 4th, they would tie with her.
Mm. Yeah.
She John Ford had 4 Oscars for directing. He's the only one that has that many. I think Frank Capra and a few others got 3, but John Ford's the only one that actually managed to get a 4th.
And even Spielberg only has 2.
Yeah. And Coppola only has 1 for directing.
So does Scorsese.
Yep. And Robert Altman and Alfred Hitchcock never won a damn one.
I loved it when they gave the Lifetime Achievement Award to Alfred Hitchcock, because they did such a beautiful build-up to his coming out to accept the award, and did this beautiful tribute. And he came out and he said, "Thank you very much," and walked off. That was it.
That was Hitch.
Yeah.
That was.
They did the same thing for Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci won the Oscar for Goodfellas, and he came up and he said, "It's my pleasure, thanks very much," and that was it. Just you expect the mouthiest actor to have the biggest speech, and just no. My pleasure, thanks very much.
Yeah. I don't expect De Niro's 2 were much more than that.
De Niro.
Seen
what did De Niro say?
Godfather Part 2 and Raging Bull.
He said something about, "I want to thank my parents for having me, and their parents for having them."
Yeah, that feels about right.
Yeah, that feels about right. But anyway.
Yeah, Peter O'Toole
never won an Oscar.
No. Despite the fact that he was Beckett, he did Lawrence of Arabia. He was nominated a good 8, 9, 10 times.
Lawrence of Arabia, which one critic said, if he'd been any prettier, it would have been Florence of Arabia. He's not pretty in this movie.
No.
Nobody is, because we're talking about the set design, the costumes. Everybody is stuffed in these costumes. It look uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they didn't have cotton yet, so
Yeah.
It was wool and metal. Like, I don't.
And you feel bad for Katharine Hepburn. She's got this head wrap.
Oh.
The whole thing. And
that she only gets to take off for 1-2 scenes.
Yeah. Toward the end.
Yeah. And but yeah, nobody in this was designed to look good.
No.
And I think that was probably the best decision.
Well, it plays against the material. The costume, set design, all that plays against the material.
Right. It's the same reason Orson Welles went with such a minimalist design for Macbeth, so that you could focus more on what was being said.
Well, this movie starts there. Because the first thing you see are all of these pillars and all of these Gothic stone carvings of the kings and royals, and they're worn down and they're ugly and they're
gargoyle-y and
and it's badly lit. Well, I mean, badly lit on purpose. By Douglas Slocum, whose most famous film was Close Encounters.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all I got.
That's all I have. Coming up next time, we have Albert Finney's Scrooge, right?
Mm-hmm.
From
Get out of here, taking a film Merry Christmas with you.
Yes, I will. I have not actually seen that version, so that'll be fun.
He walks around this movie. I'm not kidding. Walks around this movie like he's been eating lemons. It's like his face is all pinched up. Why are you doing that?
And then to round out the year, we're actually coming back to something that we wanted to do in October, but
the Eighth Wonder of the World.
Since we have an extra week, we're going to go with King Kong to roll out the 2024.
And I apologize if these have not been landing every Tuesday, but life is in the way, and it's Christmas, and I work in retail, and
so
it's rough.
It's what it is. So that's what we have coming up. So far, we haven't announced our 2025 picks. Mostly to each other yet, even. So we'll tell you those when we get closer. All of our social stuff is currently down, but we can get everything back up and running shortly, I hope. That leaves just this YouTube channel, so hit the like, subscribe, notifications buttons there, and be aware of when we drop the next episode. Tell your friends. Greatly appreciate it. We thank you very much for joining us, and the Pod Bay doors are now closed.
2 hours of pushing broom buys an 8